The Joint Legislative Medical Marijuana Work Group is focused on developing standards for testing and labeling of cannabis. The Health Department is asking for the legislature's help to implement standards, while an expert believes that the right kind of packaging would empower patients.
State Question 788 did not lay out a path for quality control standards and labeling of cannabis products, with the exception of edibles. The Health Department is searching for a way forward and might need the power of the legislature to give the agency that authority.
State Question 788 did not require the testing of medical marijuana products. So this is something as we move forward that we're, as the Health Department and also in conjunction with our partners here, we're going to be exploring what statutory authority may need to be provided in order for Health Department to be able to promulgate rules on that topic.
Three primary concerns of the Health Department, which could be addressed by legislation, are laboratory testing, recall requirements for commercial operations, and packaging and labeling. Testing and standards were part of the mix during the initial round of rulemaking by the Board of Health, which has since been replaced by a leaner set of rules more closely compliant with State Question 788's language.
I will point out that the majority of the language that was proposed in that July 10th version came from the state of Oregon. So the state of Oregon has called together a consortium of many other states as well as industry experts and really grappling with what could be best practices.
That version of the medical cannabis regulations tried to emulate the testing standards of Oregon. An issue concerning testing is that there are no laboratories in Oklahoma to test medical marijuana.
Recognizing that there's no current state process of selecting medical marijuana labs, there is no state lab that is today readily available to be able to test medical marijuana products.
Heater says there are private labs wanting to know what kind of standards will go into place. She adds those labs will have to register with the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics in order to handle cannabis testing in Oklahoma. Since the adoption of the new rules in August, testing and standards still need to be addressed.
What we have to recognize is that in the August 1st version of the rule, there is no state regulatory requirement for testing or for recall.
Heater does note that cannabis business owners are developing their own best practices, so if they find faulty products, they can handle the issue. However, it would have to be a voluntary process at this point. Standards are being formulated for food product safety. State Question 788 allowed for the creation of the Food Safety Standards Board. It has been developing standards for the Board of Health to consider.
But the Food Safety Standards Board really wrestled with what a potential testing requirement specific to food products could and should be.
Heater says the proposed food safety rules are on the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority's website for public review and could be taken up by the Board of Health soon. Dr. Lawrence Pasternak has been researching various studies about the compounds which create the different effects of marijuana.
And among the things that I have explored over this time is what consumers need, what patients need.
Pasternak contends patients want quality products and information about them.
As a medical product, one would expect some kind of consistency, one would expect predictability, and one would need information.
He believes the product labeling should provide the same information that a consumer gets on cold and allergy medications they buy over the counter.
On the label of Benadryl, on the label of NyQuil, on the label of a multiplicity of just over-the-counter medications, well, you're going to find a label that lists the various medically active compounds and their concentrations. So my thought is, as a medical product, that should be our goal.
He says because it's a plant used in many ways, the task of labeling is a little more difficult. There is more to cannabis than just THC or CBDs.
And they are composed of an array of cannabinoids, many more than just THC, many more than just THC and CBD. They also include an array of other compounds called terpenes, flavonoids, and so on.
It is the interaction of those compounds which produce the effects patients need for treatment.
When you start investigating the plant, what you start discovering is that there are complicated combinatory relationships between all of these cannabinoids and all of these terpenes.
He recommends the listing of terpenes on packaging to help patients understand what effects they can expect in hopes of treating an ailment. Next week, the work group hears from a national expert on testing, standards, and labeling.